This episode of the ChatGTM Podcast is brought to you by Budget Branders, your source for custom branded cups and bags. So what makes them unique? Well, they source using a hybrid supply model, they import to keep prices low, and they have domestic backup to fill in the gaps. Learn more at budgetbranders.com or connect with Budget Branders on LinkedIn. And now it's time for the show. Hey, everybody, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever time you happen to be chiming in. It is the Ink Tank and the ChatGTM crew coming to you live here from all kinds of points and places. I'm coming to you live here from Tampa, Florida, in my home office. I have my partner in criminality or crime or fun, Mr. Chad Horn, coming to you live from Boston. How you doing, Chad?
Good. You're always associating me with crime, which, hey,
it's not crime. In fact, the beautiful thing about Chad is the only reason I can say that he's the most far from anything lascivious whatsoever. He is my North Star on good stuff. So is that better?
Better. That's better. And I always think, oh man, gosh,
he's a smooth criminal.
We audited my history. There probably are a few crimes.
Well, unless you call all that stolen art behind you on the wall a crime, or it's a crime if you don't display it. I love the fact that you have it up.
Yeah, well, there was like a massive art gallery heist. Some like crazy valuable gems or paintings were stolen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I did wonder how they did that. I was intrigued.
Yes. But it's the old Pink Panther days. All right. Well, let's jump into something more modern. And who's our guest today, Chad? As if I don't know.
I'm going to preface this by saying, earlier today, I jumped on a call. It was called I don't know, I forget what it's called. It was the preview of the Prosper Forum, this event, this amazing event we're going to.
One of our favorites.
Next week.
Yep.
And, getting
Stop
ready for
topping your head, Patrick. You're not here yet. But
getting ready for this, I'm realizing, gosh, we're going to be talking to a lot of people about something we don't spend a ton of time in, at least until recently. Culture, people, management, leadership, etc. Right? And
yes.
We revisit every year for Prosper, but lately we've been diving into it. But it also occurs to me, every other show we go to, the number one topic is AI. And I'm thinking, gosh, these things have to intersect in some way. So part of the show preparation for Prosper was getting this guest on the podcast today so we can pick his brain about the intersection of those topics.
So if I were ChatGPT, I'd say something like, he lives at the intersection of AI and... I'm not going to do this to us. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I definitely consciously avoided the word intersection. AI
no,
absolutely.
But, okay. Well, and after that, let's go delve into... and in conclusion, yes. But let's go ahead and do our read-in. And Chad, he is one of our favorite people. I can say that emphatically. He was with me quite a bit when I was trying to figure out the world of Inky and all the fun of trying to figure out how to make repeat characters. But for the audience listening that's puzzled what the heck we're talking about, today's guest isn't just a returning guest. He is a personal friend. He's a Google influencer. And he is one of our favorite people to geek out with about the future of technology. And Patrick Bobrukiewicz has spent his career helping restaurant brands unlock the power of their data. But what sets him apart is his belief that AI should make people more human, not less. And today we're diving into AI, restaurant operations, leadership, guest loyalty, and really just at the core of what it takes to build technology that people actually love to use, not resist, right? And so Patrick, our friend, welcome to the show. Welcome back. I think this is your third time on the show now.
Yeah.
He's reading Steve Martin levels on SNL.
That's pretty good.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I love it. Love the opportunity. Both of you guys are great friends and love to take a part of anything that we're doing over at Ink Tank.
Dude, you are the bomb. So before you hopped in there, we act like we have a green room where you can't hear us. Not true. But Chad and I were riffing a little bit about Prosper, and I know why the show's near and dear to our hearts. But what do you like about that event?
So for me, this is going to be actually my first year going. And
my God,
yeah, this is actually going to be my very first year going.
We're gonna show them around.
I'm super excited. The thing that got me really excited about it is I met one of the co-founders, Luke. Luke over at Prosper Forum. Great guy.
He's an
Again,
amazing guy. Yeah.
heart of gold. It's like we find some good humans. We want to run it in packs with some good humans here. Mr. Chad Horn being one of those as well. You find all those people. They're just super great hearts, big connectors of other humans. And Luke just immediately leaned into it, and I was able to connect with him on a human level. And I said, hey, is there anything that I can do to help Prosper for him? And he said, well, you could start by being a part of it and coming to it, and then we could go from there. So this is going to be my first one, and very, very excited to be out there with the team and really learn how other executives are taking AI and operationalizing it, getting that out there into their field, how they're taking these enterprise tools, things that like the Google Enterprise environment and our Google Cloud environments and stuff like that. How are they using tools that are inside of there, and then how are they using some of the industry tools as well?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting notion too, that, as we, especially with Prosper being a people show, a show about people, it's our talk track today, right? Which is, as we layer on technology, there's only so much capacity for change and so much capacity for people to take on different things. Then there's, let's be real, some fear, uncertainty, and doubt on what that technology is going to mean as a future state. And how do we bring people along with us on this journey to help not only embrace these tools, but look at it as our sidekick, our coworker, that thing. It's almost like an exoskeleton, I think, is the best way to describe it, right? Like, because exoskeletons don't take over, but they help you walk faster, carry bigger loads, right? And maybe that's how we should be thinking about it, right?
That's exactly right. And I honestly, you sitting there in a beautiful background room behind you, unlike my current construction job over here, your Marvel reference is the one that I use most often there. So exoskeleton for me, that's Iron Man, right? And when Iron Man was when he was at his best, it's when he was the human was in the suit. We had so many scenes where the suits independently, while maybe effective, were not as successful as he was when he was in the suit, realizing that you need the human in the loop, right? Even from the very beginning there. So I think that you get the best results when you do focus on the human. And even when we look at engineered products, you can say, hey, well, we make cars for the masses, right? But a plane is designed around the pilot, right? And then we think about how effective those high-end aircraft are. They're designed to fit everything around the human that's in it, as opposed to making one thing and then assuming all the humans can fit in it equally.
It's funny how the themes keep staying the same too, because over the last 10 years, it's been about dashboards, and people often lined up dashboards with instrumentation, which was also a version of looking at how we fly a plane or drive the car or get us to where we're going. I think it's interesting. These themes keep coming up. Well, let's dip into the actual call of things we have set up for today. You are a repeat guest. Last time we saw you, we were, where is it? New York, Chicago,
I think. Yeah, Chicago for the Google Influencer event. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lisa was nice enough to invite us both out there.
All of us, yeah. And so when I was thinking about that with the whole Google sphere, we'll call it, we get a front row seat to a lot of what's happening in the space. And such a blessing to do that. But so for you, without giving away any secret that we've been hearing, what are you most excited about the business leaders should be paying attention to right now in the way of AI, or maybe Google, but just that general topic?
The where they cross, and to use the where they intersect, right?
At the intersection.
There you go. I use the word, right? Where they do intersect. Intersection is where for me, where the structured and unstructured data come together. So you're not just answering like the what, but now you're starting to answer a lot of the why. So we're used to those dashboards having a lot of things in them, like your KPIs, your key metrics, whatever things that you're looking at to drive your business results. When do you want to have a guest back in? What's your target for that? Do you have intended target sales increases over something after you've taken a menu price? Whatever. All of those are numbers, and you can ask what all day long, and dashboards have been telling us what for quite a while. But if you say, why do you think that was?
Right.
Oh, now all of a sudden they would lose their mind. No dashboard answers why do you think, right?
Or how do we fix it?
It just displays.
Yeah. Or how? right?
Yeah.
I think that's also a piece we could pull out of that.
Exactly. And going a few layers deeper into the questions. And so as soon as you can do that and you can provide that sort of a conduit or that sort of a tool for someone who needs those questions answered, I mean, that's really where now I think everything is sort of changing. And what AI has really brought to it is now you can start to have conversations and meaningful conversations with data on the back end a lot more rapidly than you could before.
Absolutely. Chad?
So, gosh, there's a lot we're going to talk about. I do
so
want to start
excited.
here. So, usually when people are talking about AI and people, usually talking about it in the form of extremes, like AI is going to take everyone's jobs, or the optimistic view, AI can give people superpowers, like Iron Man. But I want to talk about it in terms of culture. So let's take we have a company. They're committed to having a great culture.
Yes.
And how they implement AI, how they think about it, how they talk about it could either be, now going back to human impact, great for culture or destructive to culture. So you've navigated this at Thrive. I'm curious, what are some of the top things you found that you've had to do to make sure it is good for culture? And what are some of the pitfalls potentially?
Yeah, intentionality is really and where you start off with there. And I think that what's your end goal of the thing that you're working on always, right? And when you start with the end in mind and your heart is in the right place. And that's really where this comes from. Thrive Restaurant Group, we don't look at any of the AI tools like that as how can we replace people? It's like, no, how can we make the folks that are doing things more efficient, more effective, make their lives better? It isn't necessarily going into something and just saying, "Hey, it's a cost reduction tool," or it's something along those lines. How can we make people's lives better by maybe teeing up that data, making the AI be a little bit more responsive to them, and that's where starting to train your models to be a lot more closely aligned to your business and your metrics, so that it understands that unstructured data and also understands the lens or how you like to communicate about the structured data itself. Making sure that it has your key terms and things like that that are core to your culture. Giving someone an out of the box tool, like I just mentioned with a car and with an airplane that was designed around a pilot. If I just hand you a generic LLM that doesn't know all of our terms and you say store or location or unit or restaurant, depending on where I'm at, I could have just said a bad word by calling it a store when I know our leadership likes to use the term restaurant, right? Or in another case, on the back end with the query, getting the data out of the system. Just in case the end user use that term, though, I need to make sure that all of those mean the same thing, which is our Thrive location number, right? From a data perspective. But I need to make it feel very comfortable to every human that's in there, regardless of how they speak with it, whether it's day one or, day 5 or day, year 300, whatever. Like they need to have the same sort of like tailored experience to that brand and that brand's culture to answer the questions appropriately. Then it doesn't seem like an AI. It doesn't seem like a chatbot. Now it starts to seem like something that is like innate and just a co-pilot to you. It's your Jarvis inside of your Iron Man suit. That Jarvis knew everything about Tony Stark.
I feel like I should wear my helmet today. You know what occurred to me, Chad, as he's talking is when somebody we worked with at PAR, Kevin Froese is famous for that saying, right? Wisdom begins with the definition of terms. Feels like we could retool that for AI, saying wisdom begins with the definition of data.
Truly it does. It really, really does. I could echo that. Absolutely.
Well, let's so you started us down this road of data and AI in the stores and how it impacts, but let's talk about the general manager. Right? For years we've buried these guys in reports and spreadsheets, labor models and administrative work. So in layman's terms, how do you see AI finally freeing them to get back to where they belong, taking care of the guests and taking care of their team?
Yeah. I think where you should start to answer the questions where you can be prescriptive for them is probably the simplest way. Say, hey, you're likely to have some issues like this that are going on. Before our answers were to give them very complicated workflows, or even if they were linear workflows, they were very long, and you had to go run this report and then go do this and then go do something else and then go. But they were only doing that for the prosperity of getting the data out of the system so that then they could make a business decision that impacted their location. What if you just told them about the anomalies and gave them 2 hours of their lives back?
Right.
Doesn't that seem like a better trade? Like, okay, take those 2 hours and go do something meaningful, like engage with your community, engage with your staff, help your staff understand how to engage with the guests that are coming into the restaurant, things like that. At a basic human level, that's the easiest way to sum it up is what can I do that's like computer math, burn the kilowatt hours, not the man hours, right? That are going on, burn the electrons, not using the wetware. Let's use this to let the humans human, right? And work with each other.
Yeah. It feels like a lot of stuff used to be look backs too, going, here's where we failed. And now we can do prescriptive in time saying maybe we're over our labor target, our sales are down. It alerts us to let somebody off shift so we can save that money and let them go do the thing for the day. Right.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I've expressed to people. And this is not something that's today. This isn't a today role. I'm not trying to say that this is a robot that we have that does this. But you can imagine a version of the future where you just say, you have a little earpiece and cut Sally, right? Well, why did it say cut Sally? Well, because the weather outside is about to change. And historically speaking, on Tuesdays in your location, when the weather dips by this many degrees, the sales go down by this much. And the people that are on the floor right now that work really well and have high tip percentages together, whenever they work, two of them do, neither one of them is likely to go into overtime. However, Sally, from my example here, she's likely to go into overtime, and adding her or removing her from the team that's on the floor that day has no impact to the way that the other two work. So it's not like you're leaving two people who don't like to work with each other, all of that in there. So even like the human level impacts. But all I said was cut Sally. I didn't say, hey, manager, walk back to the office and then run 16 different reports to go arrive at this decision that really, truthfully, you should cut Sally.
Digital bureaucracy.
Yeah. That's it. And giving them that freedom though to say, hey, let me go make the business decision off of this, but not that I have to go rummage up all of that data to go make the decision with.
Chad?
So you're getting at the answer to the question I want to ask, but just in case there's anything else there, beyond just the accuracy of the prescription, what are some attributes of the way an AI system can give those prescriptions that make it inherently more human or ultimately more beneficial to the culture of the organization?
So what do you, again, prompts? You start with the end in mind, and you start with where's your heart at with it? What were the drivers that you put into it? If you gave strictly drivers in there that were financially, I want the person who was most likely to go into overtime, and you didn't take into account some of the other things that I mentioned, like how about when those three people, when two of them work together, their average credit card tip percentage is 23%. When you throw in this other person with them, for some reason, all of them dip down to 19%. Does that happen if a fourth person was mixed in there? No, let's look at some other shifts. And you start to look at, no, they actually cohesively, they like working together. And you can see that because they have higher credit card tips. Like when people are happy, they do a better job. When they're working, they're taking care of the guests better. That is one of the indicators. You can also look at overlapping shifts and how much time those people had together. I'm putting in a whole bunch of different variables here that all go around the culture of the humans that you're trying to look for inside of the store, not just the financial impacts. So the financial impacts matter. Sure, you need to get them off the clock because they're likely to go into overtime. We can all say that. But who should you cut when you have to toss between person A and person B? Well, which ones work better together? And does that help increase your employee retention or anything like that? So you're looking at the AIs to help with your culture as you're going through this, not only telling you to cut people just for strictly a financial reason.
So follow up on that, because are you pulling that information out of the GM, having them codify these things that only they know about the human dynamics there? Or are you doing it another way to enable this to work at scale? Because that's the how of that seems to really matter.
Yeah, and their data. You have to start looking at what your drivers are in your data. So I mentioned credit card tip percentages there with the servers. That's one that you wouldn't say, hey, what's that have to do with their overall happiness? You would have thought maybe someone needed to answer, like some questionnaires to get that response in. That's not necessarily the case. You can find data in your system in and around your environments that maybe are causations of that. They could just be correlations, though, and that's where you have your data analyst team look at that and figure out which ones seem to be the more likely causation factors for that, and lean into those more heavily where you can. But then you do also need to have built-in human feedback loops. Did you like this recommendation, right? And that's where you go out to scale. And as the system is giving recommendations, you have to have tools built back on the other end of that refine the logic and sort of rebuild over time and increase the intelligence of whatever platform you're building your bots in.
There's so many possibilities here, right? If we think it, and I'm going back in time, looking at a cube type look at this, right? The intersection of data points. We got transactional data from the POS. We have CSAT scores coming in from the review system. We have the timestamps on when that happened. We have our PMIX report on what was sold during that time. And then you look at the schedule and who was on the schedule. That tells a pretty clear picture that nobody want to look at. Our brains would go numb, or we'd be paying an analyst a ton of money to do that work, right?
Bingo.
And they might not even get it right.
Yeah. And then so it's finding those things and then testing and asking, is this a good recommendation? And even the simple thumbs up, thumbs down responses, even if the people don't take the time to fill out the reason why they thought it was a good solution or not a good recommendation or whatever, even if they don't take the time to fill all that out, even the thumbs ups and thumbs down, and retraining your models on an ongoing basis and having that being part of what you're looking at, that's one of the biggest keys to keeping it relevant to your individual environment.
It could also be retraining the manager side of things too, right? Because you're at a point in time where the manager says balls or strikes, what the thing is right or the thing is wrong, or what their gut is, and they go, and their limbic brain tells them, I'm going to go do this anyways. But maybe the outcome is a better success, and that's something that they could look at. Or if the outcome wasn't so good, hey, let's talk about why you didn't do that and get your mind kind of right.
And my answers to that would have been a little bit different 6 months ago, right? And that's how quickly the technology is changing too. So I think that the people who are leaning into more of the whether it be bleeding edge or just leading edge of the technology, they are more fraught to see change, right? Like you're going to see more changes in the models. You're going to see more changes in your infrastructure. You're going to have to pivot a lot more to stay on top of that if you want to be out on the leading front end of it. I just looking at each group. And as I even work with different parts within the organization, they have different not value systems, but more areas that they focus on a little bit more. And those areas, you want to sort of elevate up to that particular group. So even within a brand and inside of the same organization, you can even have some different drivers that you want to have. So it becomes very nuanced to how that brand most optimally runs. A brand that has a heavy catering and off-prem lift is a vastly different need than one that's very in-person and in location and, maybe a higher ticket average or something along those lines.
I think what you're playing off is a really interesting talk track. It's also, right now we're at a really interesting point in time, just like, back when gamers were playing with this, and then somebody now is born with this in their hands, right? Now we're going to have a generation that's coming in that's born with AI in their hands, and they know what to do with it. They trust it. They love it. They live with it. They can't do without it, right? And we're also talking about my generation, or the one potentially even before. I'm not, Chad, and I'm older than Chad, but I make a little bit of exception to the rule. I lean into this every day, but there's also this whole trust factor that exists, right?
Sure.
So how do you propose, because system-wide adoption or adoption by a group is dependent on the various segments in that group, right? Yeah. Especially age being a real consideration. So how do you convince the experienced operator to trust AI with something as important as labor forecasting or operational recommendations, right? Because we know when the back office doesn't work, spreadsheets start showing up again.
Yeah.
Right?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Like we will revert back to failure is not an option. I think that I heard one time is like you could take a 50-gallon drum and drop it in the middle of a kitchen in the middle of a busy dinner shift, and that kitchen would still hum for the rest of the shift.
Right.
They figure out how to get that thing out of there for the end of the night or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can just drop it in there. We're incredibly adaptive people in restaurants, so we will go find those answers. Wherever possible, even being back, if you take it away and go back to the spreadsheets. The interesting part about right now and the rule that we're in, at least for me, is we have 4 generations of employees inside of our restaurants right now. And they all value vastly different things out of their leaders and their coworkers. If you go through that, some are very I need to stay at the same job for a long period of time, and that's where they value the
Gen X.
longevity.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you have some people that are kind of in those tweener generations where do you like your boss is the most important thing. If they don't like their boss, they don't want to work there. Another one goes into a little bit of finances, but then by the time you get to some of the younger generations, the thing that they like the most are, do my friends work there? Do I like my coworkers? And their coworkers matter significantly more. Like if 4 or 5 of them like each other, they'll work there even if they don't like their boss. So it's very, but then you run the risk of if you got rid of one of them, you may run the risk of losing 4 of them at once because you don't then have I need to be at the same job for a long period of time that you get out of a different generation. So those generational drivers and their technical abilities at all of those different generations are vastly different, and it matters a ton how you make it approachable. So you have to humanize it and say, here's how it's easy. Well, the reason ChatGPT and Gemini look easy is it's one box sitting right on the front. It's not, hey, here's this whole LLM and all these apparatus and all the detail that I've gone into, even just in this conversation with you guys. It's none of that. It's simplistic behavior. It's a single chat bot, the chat box right there on the front that you get to just type in, ask a question. I don't have to be trained in how to do that. We have 60 disparate restaurant systems that run throughout our brands, right? How many logins? How many things do you need to know? How many left-hand or right-hand navigation? Or do I navigate like this, or is this one's one where you navigate up here? I haven't seen any to navigate from the right yet, thank goodness. But left and top, right? And so even just simple things like navigation, how do you log in? How many passwords do you have to keep track of? Or can I make their lives easier in some way by pumping the data that was inside of those systems that they do actually care about into a single interface that's met with just one entry portal, right? Just one, put in your text. And I have a question for you. If you can do that or get their attention through alerting them through things with emails or sending out alerts, push notifications, whatever your tech stack is more easily adopted to, send those things out. But really, for each one of the users, you're going to say, hey, how can I make this most approachable for them? And that's at every juncture with any tool that you're building, whether it's the AI tool or you're using AI to build other tools for you, which is where people are heading a lot right now. Folks like me, you're using Chat GPTs and Geminis and things like that to actually write code for you now, as opposed to just give you ideas for the code.
Yeah, Chad.
So earlier this year, we spent time even on this program reflecting on how the advances in AI and new technologies have made it so the technologists in a brand have to spend more time collaborating with brand and marketing leaders so that tech shows up the way they want it to for the guest. Talk about this from now the audience being the employee, right? What new muscles does a org have to develop so that AI and the use of technology shows up the way they want it to for the employees?
Yeah. I think there we want to roll out tools at each level that make the most sense for them. And so how many obstacles can you remove from them just simply getting their day done, right? Whatever that thing is, whatever the job function, how can you make that easier for them? And say, hey, at your level, if that's a training guide, let's say, right, that we want you to consume, how does that level of user want to consume the data. We have all taken some training courses. We've done a Coursera. We've done, whatever the case is. Maybe you sit down for 30 minutes and watch the show, do the thing, something. You take the test afterwards. That's actually not the most optimal learning path, even, right? Little 5-minute learning bites. 10-minute learning bites, and letting the younger generation take that, absorb it, take it, absorb it, and then later on go do the testing with it. You're trying to find ways to meet each person where they're at in their own journey and sort of humanize whatever the technology is for them, whether that's an onboarding for a new employee, or if you have ongoing training systems that you need to send people back through. I think there's a really interesting shift that's actually getting ready to happen in our industry, where before we were all used to serve safe and handling and food handling and stuff like that. You have to go get a license, right? A new protocol that's getting ready to come out here pretty soon for food handling is going to make it where you have to do ongoing validation and testing that your people in the restaurant are constantly doing that. And then you need to have record that when they weren't doing it and they failed doing it, that you have other additional trainings, that you've done follow-up training. They're going to up pretty significantly in a lot of states, the food handler qualifications and things like that. So those individualized trainings and making sure that you have even tools like that out at the people's fingertips to be able to learn whatever those protocols are for handling that particular kind of food. That's getting things like that even out into their hands in easy little bite-sized chunks is the sort of challenge, and doing that in large scale now that we're all facing.
Patrick, so in context with our geeking out on AI, the CEO at NVIDIA recently, Jensen Huang, recently said something to the effect that now that AI is to the point where it's doing the vibe coding, that those skill sets are being less and less important, and more important to his executives and people coming in are things like EQ, people skills, right? And now that AI is handling more of the operational math of businesses, what do you think the skills that become more valuable for tomorrow's restaurant leaders?
The EQ. You literally, you just smashed that thing out of the
I just
park
took my
right
own
there with
question.
that
Oh,
one.
well, I'm going to go now. Mic drop.
That is truly, that's the answer. It's how well can you interface with your employees, and how well can you interface with your guests? Soon, I think, will be gone of the days of like, hey, you're only good at running, the food cost numbers and running the labor numbers and running the numbers only, because those can be met. The numbers can be met by different means, right? That you could say, hey, I need to lower my labor. Okay, well, let me go jump on the grill and I'll let a cook go home or something like that. Or you could answer the thing by, hey, we need to reduce the manager's lift in time that they have to spend, let's say, like writing a schedule or taking an inventory or something like that. And we may say, instead of an ROI that you're looking for, it's an ROA, right? A return on attention. So if you only have so many hours out of a general manager or a manager in your store every week, right? And you want to get the maximum, effective hours out of them, you can't say, oh, well, then add 10 more to it, right? Because those other 10 hours working 60, 65 hours a week isn't going to make anybody more productive during those 10 hours. You're going to wear them down and eventually they're going to quit. So what you can do is say, hey, if I want to target that you will be working here about 50 hours a week or something along those lines, right? What do I want to get out of there? If I can return 3 hours back to you, I don't want you working a grill for 3 more hours. I'd like you to interface with our staff and help them increase their ticket average, help them increase their suggestive selling, help figure out why 3 of them work better together. And when you have this 4th one, suddenly they don't. Like, let's human with that, or let's let that general manager, maybe go out to their local chamber of commerce. Do something in the community, work with a local charity or something along those lines, where you're increasing your human impact in the environments that you're in, not just using the AI to ROI.
Well, that's what you kicked off in my head when we were back there talking about labor and the tool saying, cut Sally.
Yeah.
That's so when we think about in the sci-fi world, we want to talk about cybernetics, and the real challenge of cybernetics is integrating hardware with software people and making those things actually work together. So while the hardware, the AI says cut Sally, there feels like there's one layer in there that EQ plays, which is, well, Sally's got 2 babies to feed. She needs 1 more hour overtime to make it. I know that. And there's a people value here, right?
Yes. Yes, and that's where the human comes in, and that's something that when they say, "Hey, do you think AI is going to replace humans?" Not anytime soon, like that. Anyways, not down to that level. Can it replace going and running the math and doing things like that really rapidly?
Yeah.
Yeah, but down at that level, and knowing that and knowing why it matters, because the she does have those kids, and you're gonna potentially have an ill impact on the dinner table, right? And that's really where you keep the family and the culture right there for all of your employees. Give the manager time back in their lives to make that a reality.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah.
So even before AI, there was this concept of employee tech pushback, right? Whether that's from a poorly designed tool, bad training, bad rollout. And now with AI, tech pushback, broadly defined, could be much greater if poorly done. I mean, so how do you quantify that? Because if you have a solution, you're looking at the ROI, and maybe there is some, at least in terms of what you can measure. But how do you measure the tech pushback?
Yeah, you have to pilots early on and often, and testing with folks, testing, heavily testing. You get a groove, and you get to start to understand like your teams and your culture and stuff like that. But a lot of testing. You want to ease into, hey, let me try this in an area. Let me make sure that it's there. Let me validate the impacts around it, and not just the impacts that you were looking for. Everyone will always A/B test for the thing that they're trying to, right? But what you really probably ought to be doing is looking at what are the other scores, like their other KPIs and things like that. What's happened to other ones while you were doing this, and look at it like kind of the whole picture instead of just A/B testing for the one thing that you were looking for in your whatever new tool that you launched or something along those lines. But testing is the easiest answer. You have to try it, and there's no amount of testing that you can do at a home office that will replicate what it's like to test something in the field. There's so much clarity that's gained in operations that until you get the tool out there, you kind of really just don't know.
Feels like gamification would rock in that area, right? That you're seeing who's playing the most, and I mean, they're using the tool the most, engaged with it, and there you have like just some cool things you could do with that. So Patrick, restaurants have data everywhere. We talked a little bit about before when we were talking about potential feeds and intersections. You got POS, you got scheduling, you got inventory, you got email, you got guest feedback, you got all this stuff. If you're talking to an operator that's thinking about digging in, or an organization that's digging in, how difficult is it today to connect all those systems into one AI that actually understands the business?
It's a lift. It's a lift. It's not easy. It was very
Darn,
easy.
I was hoping for just a magic bullet.
I know everyone does. Everyone does. And AI
And Ozempic, you don't have one for AI?
Yeah, no. AI does not just here you go. It'll do work for you that rapidly. Will you enjoy the output of it, or think that it's accurate? Maybe not as much. But I think for there you got to get all of them aligned and say, how many of the different systems do I even have? And then you're going to go, okay, well, what in our case, what brands use those systems? Not every brand uses every system. In some companies, they only have the one brand, and of course, so all locations use it. Or do all locations use it? Because that's another question that you would need to ask: is it something that is being used in all markets or not? So you're going to go a list of systems, some number of uses or utilization of that system, and then do they have an API? So as I'm building like literally a tracker across the screen, I have one of these. Do they even have an API? Do they have a paid API? Does that API have the data in it at the right level of grain that you need to get out of that system? How often do you need to access that data is another question, right? You don't necessarily have to take all of those systems and load all of their data into an AI. Some of them you may say, hey, just send me a weekly recap report out of that thing, and that's going to be your full amount of integration that you need. Easy peasy. Some of them, though, where you're going to go down into like check level data, POS level integration, something like that, you're going to need to load the data over through an API down at a granular level, and then decide the levels of summary above it that you want to look at by sales category, by day part, by departments, by employee, by what, right? So you'll have different ways and different granularity that you want to look at for each one of those pieces of data. And then you're going to have the business impact of, well, each of those is going to cost money. dev hours, your time to load it, your time, your data, your cost to store it, and then what's the business impact that you get out of doing that work. So you basically, in effect, you build almost like a 2x2 matrix from the very beginning of all of your data sources, and then say, which ones do we want?
Yeah. You sound like an RFP workbook. Here's all the checkboxes of things you need to select this software. Like literally, here's the cost, TCO, all these things that need to bake in. If they fill that out, that's a good vendor selection process, right? To know what you have to do.
Yes. And then with every one of those that you say, yes, there's an API, every one of those has some number of endpoints. And then, every one of those endpoints has some number of data that
how many times can you hit it, right? Yeah.
Yes. All of those things come into play. So no, there isn't just a magic silver bullet that just does it. And we have also, as the restaurant industry, we have been very willing to allow our data to be siloed because of the cost of expense of it, the cost of integration of it, the lack of tools like AI. So the thing that has me the most excited about the world that we live in right now, honestly, is that barrier is down, right? Like if you want to, you can. That's the right now that we have in front of us. If you want to, you can.
So
cool.
I'm thinking, projecting into 2 weeks from now, right? We're getting back from Prosper, and it's a leadership conference. There's a lot of C-suite. There's a lot of CEOs in that room, and they're gonna be hearing all about culture. And AI's coming up. They're gonna be thinking, all right, I may not know much about this stuff, but I got my team. Who are the people on their team that they need to make sure are really talking and getting along, and make sure their execution of AI checks all these boxes, that hits on all these human levels as well as technological? Who's got to be, best buds now?
Every one of your department leads. And I don't mean like the vice president of that department, because they're usually a layer removed away from the actual function of the inbox, the accounts payable inbox, the accounts receivable inbox, the lease and legal agreement inbox, the whatever. It's the teams who are most willing to go to the middle of the organization, let's call it, right? And say, hey, let's take all of your domain logic, all of your great every single day, all the stuff that you need. We want to lean into you as a human. No, we don't want to replace you as a human. We want to have you help the system become smarter. And there, it's not just, I have an Iron Man suit, but it's Chad, you also have an Iron Man suit, and Beck, you have an Iron Man suit. And you know what? When all three of us put on those Iron Man suits and we go out and fly together,
we turn into a Voltron mega robot.
Yeah, there. And so we're doing a whole lot more work together when we're out there, and we're all speaking out of the same source of knowledge. So imagine we all have that Jarvis there, and we're all working out of that same source of knowledge. Like that's what sort of like has me the most excited. But the groups that lean in and say, hey, we want AI, and they go only at the high end of AI or only at the frontline worker, and they just lose the middle layer, the business logic that sits in the middle, that could be the glue that just makes the whole thing hum so much more. So I'd say the leaders who want to go adopt and grab that middle tier of managers and bring them up in the process and help them understand AI and how AI helps them and it's not to replace them, right? Make sure that you break down that fear factor, increase your adoption factor, because everyone will talk about tokenization and tokenomics and how much all this stuff costs. But what then you don't ever really, at least I don't very often hear anyone say, oh, well, my real cost was all the humans around me after we were done with the development that didn't want to adopt it.
Right.
I've not heard anyone stand up and say, oh, I have that problem, but it's a real problem. You have humans not wanting to adopt the thing that you have put in due to usually fear. And you need to overcome the fear with them to maximize your return on investment in the project. But then the return on attention that you're trying to get back for your managers is totally going to come out of a lot of that logic that sets in that middle tier.
So while we're on the subject, but let's shift gears ever so slightly. So Chad and I have been out, goofing around, not really goofing around, but working. But in our adventures, we've started to uncover the idea that there's some really interesting data and money to be made when it comes to looking at your VIPs, right? There's a company out of Seattle that's doing VIP recognition at the drive-thru. right? There's a company that we know out of Canada that is doing VIP recognition and in fine dining and table service, right? And when Chad and I were at the marketing workshop not too long ago in Boston, it was a big part of the conversation, and the idea is that it's easier to keep them than get them, and you can squeeze more money or find more revenue through your VIPs. So thinking about the subject of AI, thinking about the idea of what I just laid in front of you, how do you see this place?
Yeah, I think the idea that we've had in a lot of our loyalty platforms is that we would want to make things like segments. And the segments are, have you visited me, once in the last 3 months on average? And then when you fall out of that segment, I might want to alert you, and I might want to, but I'm applying one set of rules there to a whole lot of humans, and that whole lot of humans might want to, as in their own lives, be rewarded or recognized differently. Some of them might like that, hey, there's some dollar off coupon or something like that. Some of them might just like you to, I don't know, remember their name. Like
or if we talk about our veterans, I can't tell you how tired we are of thank you for your service. How about you just come by our table and bring us some bread or something,
Yeah. Like actually make me feel like that this wasn't just a completely rehearsed same line that you're going to give the same table next to me in 2 seconds. Make me feel like a human matters a lot of times to them, more often than not. And so I think treating them in more one-to-one marketing styles and things like that, where you're starting to understand them, you're not sending them in outreach. I'll go there first. In outreach, if they've ordered vegan things from you, never ordered anything with me, why are you sending them your tasty, tantalizing, sizzling steak dinner? They clearly have never purchased meat from you before.
I am lactose intolerant. Send me cheese.
Yes, exactly. Please make me sick. I'd love to do that. I think there's some lettuce trying to do that to all of us, or at least there was a couple weeks ago. Now today, I hear it might be jalapenos, right? So no, you want to take it from the marketing and make it a one-to-one experience as much as you can, and reward and recognize them, and in ways that make sense for you and your brand. So for some people that might just be, hey, do you want to skip a line? For some of them it might be, do you want to come over and do a new food tasting before we get out here? Or we're going to launch a new, wine in our location. Do you want to come check this out? Or something along those lines. And that's where I saw a system like that, not too distant in the past, a newer system into the space that I thought was really pretty innovative, Guestology. Ryan over at Guestology was willing to kind of show me what they were doing, and it adds a little bit of that where you're going through different tiers of people, but instead of trying to do it where you're trying to market out to a whole lot of people when they're there and in the restaurant, you can actually recognize them and be basically told from a couple of screens that's set in the restaurant where you can go over and interface with the guest, and you might be doing things with them. The manager visit, yeah, sure, that's a simple one. We commonly do that. What if, though, instead of using all your marketing dollars on like whoops or hey, here's $5 off, what if you did a treat for the people that you were trying to move from being a once every 3 months person to being a once a month person?
Yeah.
And now you have a whole set of try. You have a whole bunch of A/B tests that you've done. I tried to give them an appetizer. I tried to give them giving them appetizers moves them up, or no, giving them appetizers doesn't move them up. Hey, here's a awesome dessert thing, or here I used your name at the thing. Try using their name. If you go address them by their name, what's that do? Did you address this table by their name? Yes, I did. Okay, that alone might be something that gets them to come back more frequently. But using that and testing against it live in your operations and in a natural feeling way. That's the thing.
Yeah.
In a natural feeling way. Seems like that more one-to-one approach, I think, is gonna be where we're heading.
Well, sometimes we just miss the mark, right? Like we're in a fine dining experience where maybe thousands of dollars on a meal, let's be real, right? A couple bucks off your check isn't going to impress these people, but somebody coming by and spending time with them in a human experience is going to be vastly more impactful.
Yeah. A sommelier visit at the table, whatever.
See?
That alone, right? The dollar, if the dollar of the bottle was over a particular amount, make sure you send the sommelier out there with it, right? If that's a core part of your
prestige,
business, yeah, absolutely,
yeah. Chad,
I know I'm looking at the clock, so
I know almost time to land the plane.
Are software vendors to the restaurant industry, and those are some of the people who listen. So You have one thing to say to those folks about their role in helping brands successfully navigate the human elements of adoption of solutions. What do you say?
Man, ask them what's important to them first. Like what's important for you to connect with your guest instead of showing up with your software, your hey, here's the wares, here's how we pedal them. I did it for years. I know Beck, you did as well. The great competitor of mine for a number of years with some back office systems. We have both gone out and we have pedaled the wares, right? I would say that a challenge for all of our technology partners is to kind of lean in as you're doing your implementation or your sales process for that group and say, what's important to you and your teams and your culture, and how can our systems lean into that instead of trying to make all of their systems the core of the universe, right? Because if you look at everyone's pin roadmap, whatever, it's like, here's us, and then here's all the systems that integrate with us, and everything else lives around them. And that's not actually the case. Everyone really lives around the guest inside of our restaurants, because if the guests don't come back to our restaurants, there's no point in any of the service team being in. There's certainly no point in someone like me in an office being there or anything like that. That is what we have to get back to, is let's focus on what makes the operator's life easier and what makes it where they can engage with our guests more effectively and our teams more effectively.
I love it. All right. Well, we got to land the plane here. That means before we do landing, we like to do a little rapid fire fun question stuff. I think there's about 7 of them in there. You ready, Patrick?
Let's roll.
Here we go. All right. What's one AI tool you use every single day?
Gemini.
What's one piece of technology you wish existed today but doesn't?
Oh, Jarvis, the full-blown actual Jarvis.
Okay. I love it. Yeah. I'm done with that too. Bring it. Coffee, bourbon, or Diet Coke?
Ooh, it's 6 years ago, bourbon, 100%. Now, Diet Coke.
What's one book that's changed the way you think about leadership or AI?
Oh, man, books. Probably the biggest one. The biggest one that I have had is and the title of the actual book is escaping me right off the top of my head, but it's all about contributing to the pool of knowledge. And if you meet and go and contribute to the pool of knowledge in a positive way, and you're there to see the team around you be successful, I'll owe you a follow up of what the book is, so that you can just
because I'm gonna flash it over your head when I publish
and
this.
This book is the one he couldn't remember, and we'll do that later.
Love it. Face. All right. If you could automate one part of everyday life forever, what would it be?
Ooh. One part of everyday life forever. Man, I really do want my human note taker. I really, really do. I want that. I really want that. Just follow me around and be my note taker. I'm Link, be my Navi. Just come follow around and hey. Yes, be my note taker.
Well, didn't they have that movie, Why Him? Sorry, Chad, what?
I just said great reference.
Love me some Zelda.
Yeah, I just missed that. Wow. I missed a gaming reference. In Why Him with Ryan Cranston, there's DeFranco's assistant. They had like a Siri device in the head. It was voiced by Katie Kuko from Big Bang Theory. And if you haven't seen that movie, it's freaking hilarious. And it is an AI note taker that goes with him everywhere he goes. This is just his thing. All right. So let's see. Last questions here. They had a list. I want to cover one person alive or dead that you could spend time with jamming on technology.
Jobs. No question.
Wow.
Yeah, immediate, no question. Jobs. You can even go back right now and look at, he basically described talking to Aristotle, because Aristotle was Alexander's teacher for like 10 years. And he said, even then, back in 1985, he really wished he could sit there and talk to Aristotle. The guy basically talked about ChatGPT 30 years before it existed.
Wow.
Yeah,
Chad, who's
Jobs,
yours?
100%.
Who's yours, Chad?
Jamming on tech?
Yeah. Or life or philosophy. Just who is somebody, let's generalize that. Who would it be yours that you could just catch up with right now and ask him anything?
I feel like I would have to say Elon, just because I'd want more time to get inside the dude's head, since he's controlling such a big section of the world.
That's
Yeah.
a pretty good one. Yeah.
Can I be second in line? Can I get a
Yeah.
ticket for that one?
You
So
can redo.
when I'm done with jobs, can I go meet Elon too?
I think I do Marcus Aurelius just for so many things that
Okay.
he's done as far as just life philosophy, etc. All right, last one, Patrick. Finish the sentence. The companies that win in the AI era will be the ones that
Focus on the humans first.
love it. That was great. Well, everybody, this has been our show with Patrick Bobrukiewicz over at Thrive, Google influencer, amazing resident of planet Earth. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I can't wait to see you when we get to the Prosper Forum conference. What do you get? Are you getting it on Saturday or Sunday?
Probably Sunday early.
Sunday early, so we can hang out a little bit, do the red carpet
Yes.
and stuff too.
Yes,
And
can't wait. Hugs all around. Two great humans. You guys are amazing. Love you to death.
And for people that don't know you, I know you're on LinkedIn, but I don't want to promote your LinkedIn. Where do you want people to engage with you? Is that the spot? Reach out to you on LI?
LinkedIn is great, or email is super easy. I keep it short for a reason. PBOB, PBOB at ThriveRG.
Boom.
So
You heard it here first.
Shoot me anything.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. If you're a returning guest and for tuning in for the first time, if you guys haven't spent time with us before, Chad and I like to interact with people that have great stories to tell that we just enjoy spending time with, people we're rooting for in the marketplace, solutions that we love on that we hope will proliferate, and we're kind of advocates of cool new technology. If you like the things you see here, please let us know in the comments. And also, if you have a guest that you think would be a good, relevant guest for our show, introduce them. We'd love to have a conversation with them too. But for now, random acts of kindness is something we talk about all the time. Sprinkle that stuff everywhere. That's a big part of humanity. If you just offer that one moment of grace to somebody, hand somebody a buck, though, that voice in your head says, go ahead and do it. It's okay to act on it. And you never know what the butterfly effect of what your kindness will do for others. For
Exactly
now,
right.
It's Chad, P. Bob, and Beck signing off here from the ChatGTM Podcast. We'll see you guys on the next one. Actually, we'll probably see you live from Prosper by the time this is dropping. But anyways, have a blessed day. We'll see you guys later. And Patrick, thank you, man. You're the best.
Thank you. Talk to you guys soon.